Hello, good morning. Happy day one of the Backlist Readathon. This was an incredibly impromptu decision on my end to participate in this readathon, so this vlog's just gonna feel a little chaotic probably, but that's fine. That's probably what you're here for a little bit. Sometimes people say I'm calming, which I'm glad, but also sometimes I'm like, how? How is this calming? Sometimes I feel a little bit chaotic. Today is one of those days. So what is the Backlist Readathon, you may be asking? You may not be asking if you click on a video that is called the Backlist Readathon Reading Vlog. But if you don't know, the Backlist Readathon is a readathon that's hosted by my friend Jacqueline. She does this, I think, every year. This year the co-hosts are Liv's Library and Sid Bookworm. It's gonna be going on this week from Monday to Sunday, I believe. There's a lot of prompts. There's a lot to do. Don't think I'm gonna get all the prompts done, but I'm gonna try. The reason I decided to do this is because all the rest of the books I was planning to read through the rest of this month are backlist books anyway. So I was like, perfect, we'll make it fit, we'll make it work for the prompt. So what am I gonna be reading? I'm standing in a really weird location. You're seeing this really interesting portrait of my dog because I'm standing here near my immediate TBR. So what I'm planning to read, some of it I have figured out, some of it it's gonna be a mystery. So one of the things that I know I want to read is The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. I actually started this a couple weeks ago. I read the first little bit. I know there's also an audiobook because I was listening to it. And this is just a backlist book that I already knew I wanted to read. So I think I'm going to use this for at least the prompt of reading a book with your favorite color on the cover because it's like bluish and I like blue. There you go. I sat you down. Hopefully that helps with the chaos a little bit. But this is a horror book that is described as kind of like Blair Witch Project meets Midsommar, or Midsummer, however you want to say that, which sounds amazing, but it's gotten terrible reviews and everyone's kind of told me that I'm gonna hate it, but I wanted to read it anyway. It's like the story about this documentary film crew going to this town or this village where it has this weird history where many years ago everyone in the village just like disappeared and they're making a film about it. That's the setup. Like I said, I read the first 30 pages, which isn't much, but I mean, I didn't have any complaints so far in the first 30 pages. I just heard it's really slow, so gonna give this a shot. This is the first one that I do want to pick up this week. And then after that, the rest is kind of a mystery. I don't really know how I'm gonna hit on the other prompts. I really want to read this book, Yes Daddy, which is a book that is also really short. I was thinking maybe using this for recommended to you prompt because it wasn't necessarily recommended directly to me, but like all the books I picked up because they were recommended in some capacity. So I'm kind of cheating the prompts here, but you gotta do what you gotta do when you're doing a readathon last minute. So that's kind of the plans for this. I'm also gonna have a really busy week at work, so you're just gonna see me in the evenings for the most part. That being said, I gotta get to work now, so I'm gonna go get some work done for the day. I'll check in with you later this evening, and then I'll let you know what I get started reading on. Hello, it is a couple days later. It's now Wednesday. I didn't do anything yesterday, but I have been reading a little bit of The Lost Village. I'm at page 130 right now, so I'm getting kind of close to getting about halfway through this book. And honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised by it so far because I'm not hating it. And so that is a win in my opinion, because I know so many people have DNF'd this book or given it low ratings, and I'm actually pretty intrigued by it. You're seeing present day stuff, you're seeing stuff in the past, you're trying to piece together what happened, and there's just overall creepy vibes to the village. So I'm having a good time with it. I've also been listening to the audiobook quite a bit, and the audiobook is also pretty good. I like the narrator and their voice. So yeah, I don't really have much more to say than that. I'm not really feeling super strongly about it. I do feel like I'm biased because I'm finding it hard to enjoy this book or feel like I'm loving this book because I'm just not getting super excited about it because I guess no one else was. So I'm just like, yeah, this is fine. Everything is fine so far. But I'm not expecting it to build to anything amazing, I think is part of why I'm just like, yeah, this is an okay story. I've heard the ending's pretty bad, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading this. Hopefully I can finish it pretty soon because I want to read more than just one book during this week. But it's Wednesday night, which means that Sab from Riveting Reads is going to be doing reading sprints tonight, so hopefully I can hop on there and be productive and get a lot of this done so that I can move on and make sure I read more than one thing this week. So I finished The Lost Village last night Let me just walk you through my experience with this book. When I started it, it was fine, but like I said, I felt like I was biased because I wasn't expecting it to be good, and so I feel like that hindered my experience of the book, and I wish I wouldn't have heard so many negative reviews of this so I could truly know if I stood a chance at liking it, but I think that just ended up really getting to me, and it made me really less engaged with the book. I was also going back and forth between audio and physical, and just getting kind of bored and like not understanding some of the things going on in the past and how all the characters were connected. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to know everything, like with Ina and Elsa and Brigitta and their relations to each other. I figured it out by the end, but like it took me a bit to get there. So I didn't find those sections to be super enticing to me. The way the story ends, I thought was actually like kind of fine. I didn't really mind the way it ended. I've heard a lot of people be really upset by the ending of this and like what happened to the people that made them disappear and be the lost village. But that was fine for me. I don't know if people don't like that explanation or what happens with the rest of the characters in the story. It was all fine. So I think this would be like a 3-star, but I wasn't engaged and I didn't enjoy it. So it's gonna be a 2-star for me. But I also do have a complaint. But like I said, I wasn't fully engaged. So like maybe I missed something. But from my experience with this book, it felt like there was a lot of villainization of people with mental illness in this book. And again, like maybe that was the point and they were trying to talk against that, but I just wasn't paying enough attention. But from like the surface level reading of this, there are some characters with mental illness that they make out to be very villainous. And so I don't love that. So that's all I have to say about this. Wouldn't really recommend it, didn't really like it, but should have just listened to you guys. On a better note, I started Yes Daddy last night, and this so far is a work of art. I am really enjoying this so far. I really haven't read much. I only read like the first 2 chapters last night because I had read so much of The Lost Village that I was kind of tired. So I only read the first like 22 pages. And this is going to, I think, be really interesting. This is like 5-star writing so far. I mean, it is very good so far. The prologue is probably the best prologue that I've read of a book. I didn't really know what fully to expect with this. I didn't really read too much into the synopsis. I've loosely heard about it and I've heard people enjoy it. So I was like, oh, whatever, I'll just pick it up. I think I thought it had something to do with obsession. I'm still not totally sure exactly what it's gonna have to do with, but you're following this main character named Jonah. And the story starts in 2011 and then it goes back to 2009. And I think a lot of the story is going to be what happened to lead to that prologue and first chapter kind of point in the story. The prologue begins with a courtroom scene. And so you know an incident has happened, and then you go back in the past to when Jonah was first moving to New York City and what happened there. He wants to be a successful playwright. He ends up getting the opportunity to meet this guy named Richard, who is a successful playwright. And I don't really know exactly what's going to happen from there, but it seems like he's going to be, I don't know if he's going to be obsessed with him. He's kind of trying to manipulate him right now. He's like, if I can get that guy to think I'm hot because this older guy looks like he sleeps with a lot of young men in their 20s, and I'm a young man in my 20s who also wants to be a playwright, if I can like seduce him, then that will help me in my career. So that's kind of what's happening right now. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen in the story, how we're going to lead to what ends up happening in that prologue scene. And the writing is just gorgeous. Like if you really like well-crafted sentences, this is really good. I'm really enjoying it so far. So hopefully this one keeps up the positive momentum of the blog. I'm gonna be reading more of it tonight, and I'll check in with you when I have more to say. Hello, I just got off of live reading sprints that they were doing on Jacqueline's channel for the readathon. Apparently they're all gonna do some sprints on their channel with a variety of people. So that's gonna be exciting to do over the next couple of days. But I read a lot more of Yes Daddy on those sprints. Also, the sprints were just so fun because there were so many of us who just know each other in the chat, and so we were all just having like a side conversation at the same time too, which is just a ton of fun. So I love reading sprints, especially because a lot of the same people go to a lot of all the reading sprints. Like if you know, you know. Hello to all of my friends watching this who go into the reading sprints as well, but it just makes it so much more fun because it's like you're actually hanging out with a whole bunch of people that you know. But anyway, I read a lot more of this. I am still really liking it. I'm on page 70, which may not sound like much, especially compared to how much I typically can get read in that amount of time, because it was 2 45-minute sprints. So it was 90 minutes of reading, and I typically read a page a minute, if not more. So I'm not like that far behind where I should have been, but I guess I started and I was 20 pages in, so I only read 50 pages. Okay, so I'm like way behind, but I'm just reading this really slowly because I really like the way it's written, and I'm liking to really soak in like every word on the page. And some sentences I read multiple times, or I'll read a paragraph again because I'm just like, ooh, that was written really well. So I'm really just like enjoying this book, spending time with it. I can see a lot of people not liking this. It's very much a very slow burn, character driven book, which is something that I really enjoy, but I know is not for everybody. And I also just like don't know what to expect with this because I didn't really read the synopsis. I haven't really heard much about it. I don't know the marketing. So I don't know if this is like marketed as a thriller or marketed as a literary fiction or what it's really supposed to be. So I guess I'm gonna have to wait until I'm done reading it to really know what to call it. It's kind of giving me the vibes of Who is Maud Dixon, which was one of my favorite thrillers of last year. I think it was my absolute favorite thriller of last year, actually. I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that book is inspired by The Talented Mr. Ripley, but I don't know anything about The Talented Mr. Ripley. I don't know what that's about, so I don't know that to be 100% true, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that in reviews, and there's a Mr. Ripley reference in this book, and so I'm wondering if this is also inspired by that. And that is making me wonder if I need to figure out what that story is and read the source material if I'm really enjoying these stories that have been inspired by that one. So I'm gonna have to also look into that more. But yeah, still really enjoying this. It is super slow burn. They just changed locations, and I think this is when things will start to happen more. It's been a lot of setup and build up, but it's all just really, really good character building. So I'm super interested in it. Going to keep reading more tonight, read more tomorrow. I'll probably talk to you tomorrow evening after work when I'm probably gonna be hopping on another reading sprint because I'm pretty sure they're happening like every night this week. I just got a package and I screamed opening it. I'm getting a tripod set up right now so I can show you, but I was like, oh my gosh, I know what these are gonna be. I should record this, and then I didn't, and I literally screamed opening one of them, and then there's more. So I'm putting this up so I can open the rest of it. So first there was this ginormous package, and I was like, what the heck is in this ginormous package? And it was this ginormous book, The Latecomer by Jean Haupt-Corlitz. This is the same author as The Plot, which I really, really liked last year, and I was so excited for this. A little backstory, I like never request ARCs ever. I had a very small little NetGalley phase back in the day, but like I never would get anything from NetGalley, so I gave up on it, and I did it for like comics and graphic novels for a little bit, and then I was like, I'm over it. Recently, I was like, Ashley, minimal effort to just send an email out to a publisher and ask for the potential huge reward. Why don't you just give it a shot? So I did. And I started getting ARCs, and I'm super excited about it. Everyone else is probably like, yeah, it's really simple, but it is so exciting when you start getting ARCs. This is a immersive literary novel about 3 siblings desperate to escape one another and the upending of their family by the late arrival of a 4th. But this isn't even the one that I screamed about. The one that I screamed about came in this purple packaging, and I was like, this is weird. Why is this purple? Because it is one of my absolutely most anticipated books of the year, Acts of Violet by Margarita Montemor. Una Out of Order is one of my favorite books of all time, so I am so excited to read another book from Margarita Montemor. This one also has a stunning cover, and I am losing my mind. Also, this is not all that came. This came in a little package. So it came with this like invitation to a candlelight vigil, and then the rest I haven't even seen. Oh, then we've got a candle. This is like a big purple candle, a little deck of cards. Oh, there's a couple little things in here. There's these little stickers, a really cute little butterfly clip that is giving me all the memories of my childhood, a little pin, and then a little fake nickel, which I'm not sure of its significance yet, but I'm sure I'll figure it out once I read the book. So this was just such a good day. Such a good little surprise. But yeah, if there's any other of my booktube friends or just Bookish World friends out there and you're not requesting ARCs, but you have a platform, even if you don't have the biggest platform on the world, don't do what I did. Just go ahead and start asking for them because you might get them, and it's very exciting. Morning, happy Saturday. I have been reading a lot more of this book, Yes Daddy. I'm almost done with it. I have about 50 pages left of it. I read a lot of it last night. I still think this book is super well written. It's just also way heavier than I was anticipating it being. Like, The topics that are being discussed in here are very heavy, very much a downer. It's a pretty intense book, I think, and maybe my opinion might change by the end of the story, but it feels kind of just like a literary fiction with some horror elements, but like real human horrors, not horrors as in like ghosts or supernatural things going on. Just like it's horrific what happens in this book. So it's really well written, but it is a little bit of like a draining read because it's so intense, and that just kind of drains me a little bit of my energy. So I'm probably gonna finish this in my sprints, but after I finish this, I don't really know what I want to do next because I was planning on reading Dear Centauron by Kweke Emezi next, but I feel like this is going to be similar in its tone. I think it'll be very serious and heavy just based off of what I know about them and from the works that I've read from them in the past. I don't know if I can do this after reading this other book. So I'm kind of at a point where I don't know what to do next because it's like noon today. I'm gonna finish this book by like 2 o'clock. And the readathon ends on Sunday. So far, I've only read 2 books. As far as the prompts and finishing the prompts, I've pretty much covered all of them, I think, except for the Book of the Month backlist prompt, which is a bonus prompt. I would like to read more than 2 books. I don't really want to read any of my Book of the Month backlist books, which also saying that makes me feel like, why don't I just unhaul them? Because there's a couple that I've been holding on to for so long, and it's been like, oh, one day, and I'm looking at all of them on the perfect occasion to pick one of them up, and I literally don't want to read any of them. I have like Recursion, Ariadne, The Lost Apothecary, Circe, Betty, Trick Mirror. The only ones on that list that I think I'm going to keep at this point is probably Betty and Trick Mirror, because I'm like, I do still want to read those, but Betty's really long. There's no way I'm going to finish that by tomorrow. It's also heavy, I think. Don't want to read something heavy. And then Trick Mirror is nonfiction, and I don't want to read nonfiction right now. So I just want to read something short and exciting. There's nothing on my shelves that's a backlist book that I feel like is going to be short and exciting. I've got In an Absent Dream by Sean McGuire, the next book in the Wayward Children series, and so like maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm gonna read. So I'm gonna ask everyone who joins my sprints what I should do. But yeah, I have no idea. So I'm gonna get ready for those sprints. I'm gonna hopefully, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't finish this book on those sprints, and then I'll catch up with you after and we'll just see how I felt about this book by the end and what I'm planning on reading next, if anything at all. Hello, good morning, happy Sunday. I don't think I ever checked in with you again yesterday after I did my reading sprints, but I did end up finishing the book Yes Daddy on those reading sprints. And my feelings on this book are very nuanced because this book in itself is just very nuanced, and I think that's what I appreciate about it and what I like about it so much is that there is so much room for conversation around it. There's so much room for interpretation and discussion, and it's not just a straightforward book that you finish. Maybe some people do, but for me it's not a book that I just finish and I go, wow, that was a great book, I loved it, or wow, that was a terrible book, I hated it. There are things that I really liked about this book, there are things that I didn't like about this book, there are things that you're intentionally supposed to like, there are things that you're intentionally supposed to question, and so it's just a lot of things up in the air that are just gonna take some time to settle for me. I honestly don't know if they really ever will, or if this will always be a book in my mind that I don't have a straightforward answer on. I don't know exactly what this book was trying to say or do, and that becomes a little bit complicated in the end because there's this aspect of religion that's brought up at the end of the story. Religion is prominent throughout the story in a way. It's inherent in itself with the title being Yes Daddy, and Daddy being like a father figure, similar to how God is a father figure. And there's some really interesting parallels that are drawn at the beginning of this book when this main character is talking about his relationship with God, his relationship with his father, and his sexuality, being attracted to men, and how all of those work together in a way. There's just so much I could say, there's so much I could discuss, there's so much I could talk about. I think this would make an excellent book club pick if you're someone who does like literary kind of book club discussions. This isn't necessarily a horror book, in your face horror. It's not a thriller. There's suspenseful elements. It's mostly literary fiction story with very horrific elements in it, just everyday horrors of things that are going on. It's very dark. There's a lot of triggers for sexual assault and just so many things in this book. So yeah, I think where that leaves me in terms of a rating, I think I'm gonna give it a 4-star. That's where I feel good calling it. I am glad I read this book. I think it was a very well written book. It's an incredibly well written book for a debut. I will definitely be looking out for more stuff from this author in the future, but there are some things that I'm like, a little bit curious on, particularly just with the messaging at the end. I'm just not sure what this book is trying to say and if it is trying to redeem Christianity in a way because of the events that happen in the final scenes of the book. But it's more complicated than that because the whole rest of the book, there are multiple things that make it clear that it is not supporting the anti-gay messaging in Christianity. So I don't know, there's just like a lot to unpack here. But yeah, I would recommend it for people who really like really well-written literary fiction, people who are okay with reading stories with heavier themes, people who are interested in LGBTQ fiction. Yeah, that is where I landed with this book. So it is the last day of the readathon, but I did decide to pick up one more book, and that is Perfect Days by Rafael Montes. This is a story about this male medical student who becomes obsessed with this woman, and I think it gets pretty dark in what ends up happening between them. I went ahead and started this yesterday, but I really didn't read much of it. It is a short book, so I'm hoping that I can finish it today if I dedicate a lot of time to reading. But if I don't, I might just extend this vlog a little bit into the next 2 days because I'm not planning on publishing it until Wednesday anyway, just technicalities of the book world. But yeah, I'm gonna try to go ahead and finish this book for this reading vlog as well. This is not a book of the month backlist, so I'm not gonna be able to hit on that prompt, but I was just not interested in any of my book of the month backlist books, so I didn't want to force it. But I am excited to read this one. The first couple of chapters are really enticing. The very first scene, our main character, Teo is his name, is talking about how Gertrude is the only person that he likes out of everybody, and he's in this class and you're like, okay, who's Gertrude? Is that going to be the one he's obsessed with? And it is the corpse that he is working on examining. So I feel like that really just sets the tone for the level of darkness that this book is about to get into. It feels like it's going to be a dark comedy just from that, and I love dark comedy, so I'm hopeful for this book. I'm going to read more of it today, and I'll check in with you to see how far along I can get today and how I'm feeling about the story. All right, hello, it is the next day, so I did cheat a little bit and extend this readathon by just one day, but I did just finish Perfect Days by Rafael Montes, I still don't know, but I ended up really liking this book. It just made me feel so many things. This book is so incredibly frustrating, especially as a woman. It's incredibly frustrating to read. I don't know if I even ever really told you what this book is actually about. The synopsis is pretty vague. I just checked it back to make sure that I didn't spoil anything that's not in the synopsis, but the basic idea is you're following this guy named Teo who becomes obsessed with this woman, Clarice, and it gets bad. It's kind of like the show or the book You, and the guy gives very much Joe Goldberg vibes. So if you like You, I would definitely recommend picking this up if you like to read stuff like that. I love that. I love the show. I really liked the book when I read the book a million years ago, and this is very comparable to that. But yeah, it's also so frustrating because you just, I won't spoil the book, but oh my god, it's so frustrating. And I just wish the ending, I wish we could have gotten like 50 more pages at the ending. And I rarely say that, but I really wish we could have gotten 50 more pages and then it would have gone in a different direction. But this book did just elicit so many emotions from me, so that's a win. I think I'm gonna end up giving this a 4-star because I did really like it. I liked reading it. I was really engaged in the story. It's definitely a book I would recommend. I think it was published back in like 2014, and I think it might be translated. I'm not sure, so it might be even older than that, like the original story. But I almost never hear people talk about this book. I've heard a couple people mention it, but it's not super well known. But I feel like a lot of people would really like this. So if you really like the show You or the book You, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. And it's really short, so it doesn't really take too long to read. So that is it for the Backlist Readathon. I completed 3 books and most of the prompts, and I had a really good time. I ended up getting some pretty good reads. To sum it all up, I read The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. That one was kind of disappointing, but I also think I was just biased and expecting it to be bad. I think I could have liked it more had I not heard so many negative reviews, but I was just not expecting a good time, so it was like hard to really enjoy it. But it's probably like a 3-star for most people if you don't really know much about it. Then I read Yes Daddy by Jonathan Parks Ramage Parks. The books are over there. I'm just not getting up, so you're seeing them over here. This book, really, really well written, really hard hitting, very triggering. Definitely check trigger warnings before going in. Main one being sexual assault. It's pretty intense, but it is really well written, especially for a debut. There's definitely some things that I'm uncertain about, but it's a very nuanced book, and I think that is a hard thing to do. So it's great for discussions, great for book clubs, thought-provoking, good time. Gave that one 4 stars. And then Perfect Days, Rafael Montes, another 4-star. Definitely recommend this one. I think a lot of people are gonna like it, and I definitely had a good time with it. So that's a wrap for the readathon. Let me know down in the comments below if you participated in the readathon and what you read. Let me know if you've got a vlog I should go check out. But yeah, that is it for today's emoji. Let's leave, is there a suitcase emoji? If there's a suitcase emoji, let's do a suitcase emoji. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.